We have Jurg and Roger here again. We're going to do some more discussions on muscle oxygenation and how it relates to other parameters. The first one we'd like to talk about is blood lactate, and Jurg is an expert in this topic. We get a lot of questions about blood lactate because there's quite a few studies that show blood lactate can be used to, muscle oxygen can be used to correlate with some types of lactate thresholds, especially the maximal lactate steady state. So maybe you could comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic because before I started to work with NIRS and Moxy, lactate was one of our small childs actually when I moved to North America. The Lactate Pro, which is one of the only FDA certified lactate analyzers in North America, was brought over by myself and my friend from Japan, and we were really excited to have a small equipment, portable equipment here to actually use lactate not just in a lab but also on the field. And we did many tests over many years with lactate, and had, like usual, we thought this is the golden standard now for actually looking for training intensities with athletes. But as we all know, time changes and technology changes, and when we started to combine lactate testing, which we still believe is one or a good way to go, and it's potentially still a nice way to go, we realized that there is in certain cases a very nice correlation or connection between trends we see in lactate and trends we see in NIRS. But then we also had very specific cases where we realized, no, it doesn't work. So basically we had a theory where we had a whole set of cases, and some cases are very famous, where the theory didn't actually show what the fact actually showed. And then we go back to, we discussed many years ago about Aristoteles and his first ideas, where he said, well, when the theory doesn't fit the facts, we may have to change the theory and not adjust the facts that they go to the theory. So one of the most discussed points where lactate creates a lot of questions is a syndrome, McArdle syndromes. That's people or kids who have a genetic deficiency and they can't really create, in simple terms, lactate. And so you would assume that is great, because if lactate is really that ugly bad guy we all learned when I went to school, who makes you fatigue and stops you from functioning, then would think these kids can go forever. But it's actually the opposite. They actually are very low exercise tolerance, but they can't produce lactate. So there was obviously one of these facts where we had to try to destroy that we can maintain the theory. And so when we started to work with NIRS to get out, our initial idea was actually, whoa, we can use NIRS and basically create our famous lactate curve, whatever curve you like to create, and therefore can actually check lactate non-invasively. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was the whoa, you know how nice it is if you can go out and run and you don't have to have a needle with you and poke and have to see where I get rid of the needle. It's not a bloody mess when you do whatever. And so it was great that we said, okay, there is a correlation. And our initial idea was actually, can we just simply say, okay, if we have a lactate curve, we will find a curve with NIRS who will create basically somewhere a step or a threshold which is identical with lactate. Mm-hmm. And in some cases it was fascinating close, and in some cases it didn't exist at all. So we had to give up that particular idea a little bit and say, they obviously hang somewhere together, because both work together in the idea that energy is used. Mm-hmm. And the main energy when we actually try to survive is oxygen. I mean, nothing works without oxygen. And so the big discussion now, not just what we do here, but in the whole exercise community is, do we have to review what lactate is? Is it really the bad ugly? And majority of literature, they would agree it's not the bad ugly stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating substance who may be used in many shuttle functions to actually work as an energy shuttle. It helps actually to go longer. Mm-hmm. So basically the opposite than what we thought. So if you give somebody, in simple terms, lactate, he can actually sustain the performance a little bit longer, okay, because lactate helps to buffer what we called at that time lactic acid.